You can have all the logic in the world, the plans, the blueprints, the step-by-step strategies. But let me tell you something straight, logic will never create the life you dream about. It'll keep you safe, it'll keep you organized, but it'll never make you come alive. Because logic is limited. It's the path everyone can see. But imagination, that's the fire that turns ordinary into extraordinary. It's the spark that built empires, cured diseases, created revolutions, and redefined what's possible for humanity. Right now, as you listen, your logical mind is trying to predict where your life is headed, your next paycheck, your next opportunity, your next realistic move. But your imagination, that's the voice whispering, what if there's more? And that whisper, if you dare to follow, is what can take you from living life by design instead of by default. So don't just think, don't just calculate, don't just plan, I'm a GME. Because the world doesn't belong to the ones who follow reason. It belongs to the ones who rewrite it. Logic gives you structure, but it can also build the walls that keep you trapped inside your own limitations. From the moment we're children, we're taught to follow rules, to play safe, to stay within the lines of reason. Men are told to be practical, women are told to be sensible, and somewhere in between, we forget how to dream. Logic whispers, be realistic. Imagination shouts, be relentless. That's the war between who you are and who you can become, the battle between certainty and possibility. Every man and woman alive has felt the tension between control and creation. Logic gives us control. It makes us feel grounded, measured, and responsible. But the truth is, control is often a disguise for fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping into the unknown. We call it being realistic. But what we're really doing is shrinking our world to fit what we already understand. That's how dreams die, not with rejection, but with reason. Men often hide behind logic because it protects their sense of identity. If they can measure it, prove it, plan it, they feel powerful. But real power isn't in what you can control, it's in what you can create. The men who built empires, led revolutions, and changed industries weren't logical, they were visionary. They took risks that didn't make sense until they worked. They acted on belief before evidence. They saw it before anyone else could. That's what separates the average from the unstoppable. Women, on the other hand, often possess a deep well of intuitive imagination, the ability to feel what's possible even when logic says it isn't. But too often, that gift gets muted by the expectations of being reasonable, responsible, or realistic. When a woman silences her imagination to fit into the world's structure, she disconnects from the very force that makes her extraordinary. When she reclaims it, she doesn't just create new possibilities for herself, she gives permission to others to do the same. The most powerful shift happens when logic and imagination work together, when structure becomes the foundation, not the ceiling. Logic can help you understand the rules of the game, but imagination lets you rewrite them. That's where freedom lies. Every innovation, every transformation, every personal breakthrough begins with someone daring to think beyond the limits of logic. It's not about abandoning reason. It's about transcending it. What holds most people back isn't lack of knowledge, it's lack of vision. They know how to move from A to B, but they've forgotten how to imagine Z. They're following maps drawn by someone else instead of charting their own. The moment you decide to stop asking how and start asking what if, everything begins to change. Because the only difference between the logical and the legendary is imagination backed by action. When logic says, it can't be done, imagination says, watch me. That's where transformation begins, in the space where reason ends and vision takes over. Playing it safe has become the greatest risk of all. The world has changed. It no longer rewards those who stay comfortable, it rewards those who dare to step beyond it. Safety used to mean security, but today it often means stagnation. The people who cling to the familiar are the ones who slowly lose their spark. Playing it safe might protect your pride, but it will cost you your potential. It might shield you from failure, but it will also rob you of growth. The truth is, safe doesn't keep you alive, it keeps you stuck. For many men, safety hides behind logic and control. They crave certainty, they want the plan, the checklist, the predictable outcome. It feels powerful to know the next step, to calculate every move, but beneath that control often lives fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of losing status, fear of failing in front of others. So they build walls of reason, telling themselves they're being strategic when deep down they're avoiding risk. Yet every breakthrough in a man's life has come from the moment he stopped playing small and dared to put something on the line. Growth demands uncertainty. Without the willingness to fail, success is impossible. Women experience the danger of safe in a different way. They've been conditioned to prioritize harmony, to keep things steady, to not disrupt the balance. Safety can feel like self-preservation, especially in a world that often tells women to be careful with their dreams. But that same safety can turn into a silent prison, one that keeps their voices quiet, their power restrained, their creativity confined. When a woman chooses safety over authenticity, she starts living a life that looks right but feels wrong. The moment she decides to step into her own authority, to take risks for what she truly wants, that's when her power ignites. Safe feels comfortable because it's predictable, but comfort is where dreams go to sleep. Human beings are wired for expansion. Our psychology demands growth, contribution, and challenge. When you remove risk, you remove meaning. The mind might crave safety, but the soul craves adventure. And when there's no growth, people begin to wither. They lose excitement, connection, and energy. Playing safe feels like protection, but it's actually slow self-destruction. The irony is that the greatest danger lies in trying to avoid it. Playing small doesn't keep you safe, it just guarantees regret. Every time you choose comfort over courage, you reinforce the belief that you're not capable of more. Every time you avoid the unknown, you confirm the limits of your world. The people who thrive, men and women alike, are the ones who understand that uncertainty isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. They've learned that fear is not a signal to stop, but a sign that something meaningful is ahead. The moment you stop chasing safety and start chasing growth, life starts moving in your favor. Risk stops being terrifying and starts being empowering. The only thing more dangerous than taking a leap is standing still while life passes by. Playing it safe has become the most dangerous thing you can do. The world we live in today doesn't reward caution, it rewards courage. Playing small used to mean security, but now it means invisibility. Playing it safe might feel like protection, but it's actually the slowest form of self-destruction. When you play it safe, you don't fail dramatically, you fade quietly. And that's the tragedy most people live without even realizing it. Safety is seductive because it disguises itself as peace, but underneath it lies fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of uncertainty. Yet everything you truly want lives on the other side of that fear. For most men, safety shows up as control. They crave predictability, they want to know the numbers, the strategy, the exact path before taking the first step. It feels responsible, even intelligent, to think before you leap. But the truth is, what many call logic is just fear wearing a suit. Men often protect themselves with plans and structure because uncertainty threatens their sense of capability. When a man doesn't know what comes next, his mind tells him to retreat, to wait, to prepare more. But preparation can become procrastination. Playing it safe keeps him competent but never extraordinary. The world doesn't remember the men who played it safe, it remembers the ones who dared when it didn't make sense. For women, the psychology of safety often manifests through harmony and approval. Many have been conditioned to keep the peace, to be careful not to step too far out of line, to avoid being too much. Safety becomes a shield, not just from failure, but from judgment. Yet the cost of that shield is authenticity. When a woman hides her fire to fit an expectation, she dims the very energy that makes her magnetic. Playing it safe may protect her from conflict, but it also keeps her from commanding her own power. The moment she stops asking for permission to expand, she stops surviving and starts leading. Safe feels rational because it's familiar, and the human brain craves familiarity. It's wired for survival, not success. The mind's job is to avoid pain, not to pursue greatness. That's why the safe choice always feels easier. It keeps you within the comfort zone your nervous system already understands, but comfort and growth cannot coexist. The same space that feels safe today will feel suffocating tomorrow if you stop evolving. When you stop challenging yourself, your energy begins to fade, your confidence shrinks, and your potential atrophies. Safety becomes the silent killer of passion. The paradox is that avoiding risk creates the very thing you fear most, loss. Loss of momentum, loss of fulfillment, loss of identity. Staying safe doesn't protect you from failure. It guarantees mediocrity. Every breakthrough in your life has come from the moment you decided to stop playing it safe. The first time you said yes before you were ready. The first time you spoke up when your voice shook. The first time you bet on yourself instead of waiting for approval. The growth you crave is always hidden behind the risk you resist. Both men and women are driven by an instinct to avoid pain, but that instinct must be retrained. You can't evolve if you keep negotiating with fear. Safe choices might calm your mind for a moment, but they leave your soul restless. There's a part of you that knows you're meant for more, a part that's screaming for expansion, adventure, and contribution. And every time you ignore it, that voice grows quieter until it disappears. The danger isn't in failing, it's in forgetting that you were built to rise. Safe is no longer security, it's surrender. In a world moving this fast, standing still is the most dangerous position you can take. Playing it safe might protect your image, but it destroys your edge. The men and women who thrive in this world are not the ones who hide behind reason. They're the ones who act with vision. They understand that the cost of comfort is greatness. Because when you stop choosing safety, you stop living by limits and start living by possibility. Everything that exists today was first built in someone's mind. Every invention, every movement. Every revolution began as a vision long before it became a reality. The most powerful force in the world isn't what you see, it's what you can imagine. You can't build what you can't see, and that's why vision is the birthplace of creation. Most people spend their lives reacting to what's in front of them instead of creating what's beyond them. They live by logic, by plans, by evidence. But evidence follows belief. The world doesn't change because someone waits for proof. It changes because someone dares to see something invisible and act like it's already real. Men are often taught to trust what they can measure, to rely on facts, data, and reason. It feels safer to stay inside the realm of what can be explained. But the challenge is that logic can only take you as far as what already exists. Vision, on the other hand, takes you to the unknown. A man who learns to see beyond what's visible becomes unstoppable. He doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. He makes them perfect by believing first. The great builders, creators, and leaders of history didn't have certainty. They had conviction. They saw what others couldn't, and because of that, they created what others wouldn't. For women, the power of vision often begins with intuition, an inner knowing that doesn't always make sense to the outside world. Society has long trained women to doubt that inner voice, to seek validation before trusting their own instincts. But that inner vision is often the purest form of imagination. When a woman learns to trust what she sees inside her heart before the world believes it, she becomes a force of nature. She doesn't follow trends, she sets them. She doesn't wait for permission, she leads from inspiration. The moment she realizes that her inner world shapes her outer world, she reclaims the authority to design her life instead of adapting to it. Seeing it before you build it requires courage. The courage to hold a vision when nothing around you supports it. It means standing in faith when logic screams that you're foolish. It means believing in a version of yourself that hasn't yet appeared. That's the test of imagination. The gap between what you see and what's real is the space where faith lives. And most people give up in that space because it feels uncertain. But uncertainty isn't a sign of failure. It's the birthplace of possibility. You have to live mentally in the result long before you experience it physically. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and experience. When you visualize something vividly enough, your nervous system begins to align with that reality. That's how athletes win before they compete, how leaders inspire before they achieve, how creators design before they build. You train your mind to see the outcome, to feel it, to believe it so deeply that your actions naturally follow. The body moves where the mind leads. If your vision is clear, your path becomes inevitable. The reason most people never build what they dream of is because they wait for external permission to believe. They look for validation instead of vision. They want to see results before committing to the process. But creation doesn't work that way. You have to see it internally before you can manifest it externally. You have to believe when it's hardest to believe. When the evidence isn't there, when the people around you don't understand, when logic tells you to stop, that's when imagination becomes your superpower. Seeing it before you build it isn't fantasy, it's discipline. It's choosing to hold an image so clearly in your mind that your actions, your energy, and your habits begin to align with it. It's refusing to let the visible world limit what's possible. Men and women who master this don't just live by reason, they live by vision. They don't wait for opportunities, they create them. Because once you've seen it in your mind with absolute certainty, building it in reality becomes only a matter of time. Emotion is the fuel that gives imagination life. Without emotion, imagination is just daydreaming, scattered thoughts without motion or power. But when emotion gets behind a vision, it transforms it into something unstoppable. Emotion is what makes the impossible feel necessary. It turns ideas into obsession and desire into drive. The greatest innovations, revolutions, and masterpieces were not built from logic alone. They were born from deep emotional intensity, passion, frustration, love, pain, hunger. These emotions don't just move us, they shape the way we see the world. They ignite imagination and turn thought into creation. Men often struggle to connect emotion with imagination because they've been conditioned to believe emotion is weakness. They're told to stay composed, to think logically, to suppress what they feel. But emotion isn't weakness, it's energy. And energy is power. When a man learns to channel emotion instead of control it, he becomes unstoppable. Anger becomes determination. Pain becomes purpose. Love becomes legacy. The men who build, lead, and inspire are not the ones who shut down their emotions. They are the ones who harness them. Emotion gives logic direction. It's what transforms strategy into action and thought into movement. For women, emotion is often more naturally expressed, yet it's just as misunderstood. Society tells women they're too emotional, as if passion and sensitivity are flaws instead of strengths. But emotion is the language of intuition, and intuition is imagination in motion. When a woman embraces her emotional intelligence instead of suppressing it, she connects to a depth of creativity and clarity that logic alone can't reach. Her emotions guide her vision, helping her see possibilities others can't. When she feels deeply, she imagines fully, and when she imagines fully, she creates powerfully. Emotion is not a distraction from imagination, it is its amplifier. Every vision begins as a feeling before it becomes a thought. You don't imagine a better life because you think you should. You imagine it because something inside you feels that what you have isn't enough. Emotion signals desire. It's the internal vibration that tells you something more is possible. When you feel stuck, it's not because you lack imagination. It's because you've disconnected from emotion. The moment you reconnect with what you feel, what excites you, angers you, moves you, your imagination wakes up. Emotion is the switch that turns someday into now. The challenge is that most people spend their lives trying not to feel. They numb themselves with comfort, distraction, or routine because feeling deeply means facing uncertainty. But the people who create extraordinary lives are the ones who lean into emotion instead of running from it. They use it as fuel. Emotion gives imaginations depth and meaning. When you let yourself feel fully, when you allow joy, fear, hunger, and love to exist together, your imagination expands because your perspective expands. Emotion stretches the boundaries of what's possible. Your nervous system is designed to move toward what excites you and away from what scares you. But growth happens when you reverse that pattern, when you use emotion to move through fear instead of avoiding it. Fear and excitement feel almost identical in the body. The only difference is the story you attach to them. When you shift fear into anticipation, you unlock courage. And courage is the emotional state that fuels imagination. Every great idea, every bold decision, every act of creation began with someone feeling something so deeply they couldn't ignore it. Emotion gives color to imagination and purpose to action. It's not about controlling what you feel. It's about using what you feel. Logic may build the structure, but emotion builds the drive. When you align your vision with emotion, you tap into the most powerful force within you. The ability to turn imagination into impact. Emotion is what breathes life into every dream, gives shape to every vision, and fuels the relentless pursuit that turns an idea into reality. Living like the future already belongs to you means stepping into your destiny before the world gives you permission. Most people wait for proof before they believe, but the ones who shape history believe before there's any sign of proof. They act from certainty, not circumstance. When you live as if the future is already yours, your energy changes, your posture changes, your decisions change. You stop hoping and start claiming. You stop reacting and start creating. The world bends toward those who move with conviction. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You attract what you embody, and the moment you act like your vision is inevitable, it begins to materialize. Men are often driven by the desire for evidence. They want to see results before they commit fully. They've been taught to measure progress, to analyze, to prove worth through achievement. But the greatest achievements don't come from waiting, they come from believing ahead of time. When a man decides to live like the future already belongs to him, he stops chasing success and starts commanding it. His energy becomes magnetic because it's rooted in certainty. He no longer asks, can I? He declares, I will. That shift transforms him from a man seeking validation to a man living vision. The world responds to that kind of energy because it's rare. Most people are led by fear, he becomes led by faith. For women, this mindset means embodying confidence before circumstances justify it. Many women wait to feel ready. Ready to lead, ready to speak, ready to take up space. But readiness is an illusion created by self-doubt. When a woman steps into her power as if the future already belongs to her, she stops apologizing for her ambition. She walks differently. She speaks differently. She doesn't ask for a seat at the table. She builds her own. Living from that energy doesn't mean pretending. It means remembering who she is. The moment she believes her future is secure, her actions start to match that belief. And when her actions change, her world transforms. The human mind doesn't work based on reality. It works based on belief. Your brain is constantly predicting what's next, and those predictions become fulfilling. When you walk into a situation expecting failure, your physiology shifts, your breathing tightens, your tone changes, your confidence fades. But when you walk in as if success is guaranteed, your body follows that story. Belief isn't fantasy, it's psychology. You become the evidence of your own conviction. Living like the future already belongs to you reprograms your nervous system to see opportunities where others see obstacles. The secret is emotional alignment, acting from the feeling of already having what you want. When you live in that emotional state, you create momentum. Every choice you make, every interaction you have begins to flow from a place of ownership instead of lack. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, how fast can I make it happen? That's how visionaries operate. They aren't waiting for confidence, they generate it. They live in the frequency of their desired outcome, and because of that, they naturally attract the people, ideas, and opportunities that match it. Both men and women have been conditioned to think they must achieve something before feeling worthy of it. But the truth is the opposite. Worthiness creates achievement. When you live like the future already belongs to you, you begin to operate from abundance instead of scarcity. You make decisions from vision, not from fear. You stop negotiating with your potential and start acting as the person who's already fulfilled it. That level of certainty rewires your identity. You're no longer chasing success, you're expressing it. The future stops being a distant dream and becomes a present reality. You step into one decision at a time. Living like the future already belongs to you is about shifting from hope to ownership. It's about behaving like the person who already has what you desire, in your habits, your focus, your energy. The mind follows identity, not intention. Once you identify as someone who's already living their vision, everything begins to align around that truth. You stop asking if and start asking how. You move with power, with grace, with unshakable belief, because you're no longer waiting for your future to find you. You're already living inside it.